Good evening. How's it going out there? We've got someone here. Have we? No. Okay. Well, I'm going to start. You can join me if you want. I'm recording this anyway. I find it easier to do live recordings if you're watching this. So, should we get into it? I thought it would be a nice idea to actually go through some comments on the video I made on Marilyn Manson and how his lawyer tried to use the consent argument, because it's not just that it applies to Marilyn Manson. There's obviously loads of other cases where this argument comes up, and I just thought that, you know, we hear these same excuses or defenders of this kind of abuse. And I mean, I responded to some of them, but I don't know who these people are. I don't know if they're being genuine or they are trolling or they are trying to get a response from me. So I want to go through, and also some of these comments were quite long. So it's, it's not easy to respond in in writing sometimes. Let me show you. I mean, unfortunately, I can't post screenshots onto the stream. I actually use my mobile for this now, so hopefully one day that will change. But let me see if I can show you one of the comments. Wait. Oh, I've lost it. There it is. It's pretty long. Well, let's start with a nice comment. Actually, the first comment I got, someone said, "I love my recommended page just for this video." So it's always nice to know that there are other people out there, that you're not the only person thinking or expressing these views, because I feel like overwhelmingly there's certain viewpoints that we are being fed day in, day out. And unless you've got the kind of resources or the wanting to become a YouTuber, then no one speaks up. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, look, I'm here now with a couple of people watching. I don't care. I just said to myself, I'm going to keep going with this stuff because I know it's going to build. I just know it is. So yeah, thank you to you. Just Nicoletta. I'm very glad that you got recommended the video. So let's move on to Jordan Baby 6286. So she said, "I've never been a huge fan. However, it's awfully coincidental that all of these women are coming out around the same time or shortly thereafter as Evan Rachel Wood." Now, bear in mind, she's started the comment by saying, "I've never been a huge fan." You've never been a huge fan, but yet you're watching this video about him. Interesting. And making a very long comment that you've obviously put a lot of thought into, which I appreciate that. I appreciate that you made an effort, because we have to have conversations. It's interesting to know what people are thinking. In addition, these relationships between him and the various women identified in the video were very public and seemingly between consenting adults. If they weren't interested in participating in these activities with him, end the relationship, leave. Now, how many times, how many times have we heard that? You know, it's like it's 2025. We have open discussions about abusive relationships, about people that are in abusive relationships, about the cycles of abuse, about the men and women, but it's predominantly men who, when you're in an abusive relationship, will not allow you to leave. You know, as far as they see it, you are their property. And unless you've been in that situation, then I get it's hard to have understanding, but that's the purpose of me coming on here and speaking about it, because until people start to understand how it works, we're just not going to get anywhere, you know? When a woman decides to leave a man who's violently controlling her, that is the most dangerous time for her. That is where she's at risk of death, you know what I mean? And also, he said it himself in the released audio that he said the words, "I want to break her down." Do you know what I mean? So that's what you're dealing with. Call the authorities right away. Don't take 10 plus years to come up with these accusations and press charges then. Again, you know, we had a discussion with my friend who works in the actual professional space. And I said about the girl Esme, she said, and she sounded very genuine, that it took her 7 years to come to terms with what had happened. And that was something that my friend who deals with helping these women move forward with their lives, giving them the signposting to carry on, she said that was something she very much recognizes. So, do you know what I mean? This is a common thing that is happening. And just try and open your mind. In my opinion, it's just too coincidental that they all come out near the same time and all stories are similar and consistent. They're feeding off of each other and they all see the money he's having to pay them and they all want in on the game. Okay, so the issue with the payouts. If you actually break it down, how much someone is going to get from suing someone, which, by the way, is in some cases the only course of action there is to deal with this kind of abuse. Like, if you want it to be recognized, if you believe that that person is seriously a danger and seriously out there harming other women, and you go to the authorities, you go to the police, and they're not able to move forward with prosecuting them, because it is a very difficult situation. You know, prosecutions are based on evidence, and when you're in an intimate relationship with someone, showing and keeping evidence can sometimes not be easy. You know, it is going to be your word against them. If they have very strong legal representation, they're going to do everything to discredit you. So bear that in mind. Just because they're not prosecuted and charged doesn't mean they're innocent, okay? So then what do? You think you're going to take it up as a civil matter. So it's not all about a payday. Like, you've got to start seeing things how they really are and forget about what you've been told in the media for all of these years. We have a comment. Can I post it? Yay. Good evening to you. I'm a humble beep hole. Lovely to have you here. Sorry if I'm ranting, but I just feel like these things need to be said. I can't believe that still there's people out here that don't understand this stuff and they're coming to comment. So it's all too much, and these women are just wanting their piece of the pie. Again, like I said, there's absolutely no guarantee that you are going to get any money. By the time you've paid your legal fees off, you know, you've got to think about how much time that's put into sourcing all the information you need, all the phone calls, all the traveling, all the sending things across. You know what I mean? It costs a lot of money. Not, I mean, legal representation is extremely expensive, and then if you're going up with someone like that, you need a good one. Do you know what I mean? It's something like £600 an hour in the UK just for a phone call or a letter to be drawn up. So imagine a whole case. It can end up being $500,000 quite easily. And there's another case that I've mentioned a couple of times, the Conor McGregor case. She received, uh, think it was 250,000, but that had been estimated how much it would cost her to move to another location because she wasn't safe where she was because of what he had done to her and because of how he was behaving. You know what I mean? So the idea that taking someone to court is a money grab is very weak, I think. This person has said to me, quit stating that these things were non-consensual and be honest. If you don't, that money you may get is going to come back to you as bad karma. Be honest and go on about your life. Well, I think I've pretty much explained that it's not always about money. Sometimes this is the only way to get justice, and it's not even just about getting justice, it's about protecting other women or potential victims. The issue of consent, as I said, I had a really frank and open discussion with my friend Shim, which I posted on Saturday. So I've explained it all there, but basically how consent works is it works on a minute by minute basis. You are free to withdraw consent at any time during sexual or whatever else activity. We've got a comment here. Connor's wife was a victim in my eyes until she victim blamed the woman, not him. I liked Shim. She was awesome. Oh, thank you. That's going to be... She is so happy that even people commented on the video. So, you know, like, you got to understand as well, like, she doesn't even have a YouTube channel. She has no idea I'm even doing this tonight. You know what I mean? It's like, she just really, really wants to be able to connect with other women and other victims and be able to share her lifetime of experience. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that is really, really nice to hear. So yeah, going back to Conor McGregor, Conor's wife. Well, for one thing, they're not married. You know, he's put a ring on it, but only the one. I believe that, yeah, I can't even imagine what being in a relationship with him must be like. You know what I mean? I don't really want to be too nasty to her, but I mean, more than likely he would have coerced her into putting that message up that she did. So there is that. But, you know, it is 2025. There is always a way to try and get away from someone like that. But yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine what he does to her, to be honest, because, you know, we've seen, if you know anything about him, we've seen, there is footage of him literally touching up another woman when she's standing right next to him in an event. So um I didn't know that, but I am so sad for her. She's blinded. Yeah, I mean, a lot of women are, and again, it's like you know, for my own part, I'm a very independent woman and I always have been. And some men have found that threatening in some way because I don't know, men, when we grow up, it's like men are taught to take on a role of like protecting the woman. So it's like when they meet a woman who's like, well, don't get me wrong, I do still like being protected, but you know, it's like there's a thin line between protecting and like preventing you from being too independent, let's just say that. It has caused issues in the past, but I fully believe that the way our world is now and the way everything is going, you know, this idea that a man and a woman have to live together, have to be married, that the man kind of is in charge, it's just not really working out. It hasn't been working out for a long time. Women have to go to work now. One person working in a household is not really enough to be able to afford just basics. Um, so I think that, yeah, we have to start thinking about moving forward and what alternatives are there, and supporting other women is a good way to start. It's not to say as well that every single woman that accuses another man is necessarily taking the truth. You have to take it on a case by case situation. Do you know what I mean? But personally, I think you can pretty much tell if there's evidence that it's actually been an event, or if they have a history of lying. That it's normally not, you know, it's normally not someone just comes out of the blue and starts making up stuff like that. There's normally a history of it or other stuff going on that you can tell when it's a made up allegation, which, by the way, going back to this person who made this long comment, as not a huge fan, those women haven't got a history of that, you know, since they haven't been with him or previous to him. There's been nothing like that going on, to my knowledge. Anyway, I hope that I have answered that very long response and corrected a few misconceptions there. We did actually, I love it when other people reply for me. So someone responded, it's very common for more victims to come out and speak up once a single person has already done it. Nobody wants to be the first person with all that scrutiny on them. Exactly. This is literally standard for these sort of things. The fact that you think Marilyn Manson, an obviously terrible person and major drug addict, is on the right side of this is absurd. Exactly. Another thing that always gets left out of the equation is when someone's using drugs for as long and as deeply and as intensely as what he obviously does. I mean, you know, he's not exactly made a secret of it, and we're talking like 20 years of drug abuse at least. His mind is God knows where. Because a lot of times using all of these drugs, staying up for days, it's going to make you act crazy. It really is. I being in a relationship with someone that has a serious drugs problem, it's never going to be good. It's never going to be good. That's another whole issue that we could get into. Right. This one I didn't actually reply to, but it said, just because Evan was stupid and used him for her career. Well, I don't see how she was stupid, by the way. What was stupid about her? If you ask me, I don't know her. I don't know anything about her, but what little I have seen of her, she comes across as very articulate, very intelligent. You know, she's talking in front of Congress. Like, there's no way I could do something like that. Um, you are not stupid to be getting to that level. And as for using him for her career, I don't see how. First of all, she never said his name for like 3 years or something after she spoke about being abused. And so, how does she use her name for his? Uh, how did she use his name for her career? Like, she became an advocate for victims in a very public space without using his name. So that doesn't make sense. And when she did speak about him as well, like, it was obvious. It was obvious she was going to get attacked and, well, smeared she was going to have a smear campaign against her, and that's exactly what's happened. So again, she would have known that. She would have known. And I don't know what it was that tipped her over the edge to come out and say his name, but I really don't think that she thought that was going to help her career. She knew that by saying his name, there was going to be no turning back, and that she was going to get bullied, and that she was going to get harassed. So then the sentence isn't finished yet. Doesn't mean they have not been in love. Well, I mean, yeah, they could have been in love. You know, she was 18. I'm sure she was in love. I don't know about him. I don't know if he is really capable of loving anyone in a respectful, mutual way more than he loves himself, but I'm sure that she was definitely in love with him. I'm sure they all were, you know. I'm sure when he puts on his charm, he is very hard to resist if you're into that sort of thing. We've got another person in the chat. Hi. I saw you in the last one. Good to see you again. Thank you for joining us. We're just reading through some comments on the Marilyn Manson video I made. Right. If he wasn't intoxicated with love, he wouldn't go with an 18-year-old. That doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me. There's plenty of dirty old men out there that go with younger girls, and it has nothing to do with love. Absolutely nothing. Their age is what makes them more vulnerable, what makes them more easy pickings, easy for them to manipulate. Then she said, now this comment really bothered me. This was when I was like, I think I need to address this in an actual video. She said, I cannot look at my relationships at 18 to 22 and claim now that I was raped, even if I was. I just was saying then it's okay because I don't know how I should be treated. I was consenting even if I didn't like it. See, this is such a dark thing to write in a comment on a video of people that you don't even know. Like, it really is, when people put this much intimate information into a comment. To me, it's a red flag, and you just don't know. But the reason why I didn't respond to them, because I just didn't even know what to say. I just feel like if you believe that, then I'm just really sorry for you, because no one should be consenting to that. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think if anyone was ever in this position, that you surely can look at relationships. You can look at relationships when you were 18 to 22. That is when we're doing our learning. You know, we know nothing when we're 18 to 22. So if a 37-year-old who's been around the block is teaching you at that age, you have a lot you can forgive yourself for, in my opinion. And I think that you absolutely can say you was raped. You know what I mean? So it was a very odd comment. I don't know. I don't know how deep his fan base is. I don't have experience of them. I had been warned. I had been warned by someone who had said to me a while ago, you know, the problem with making content about Marilyn Manson is you will get trolled, you will get abuse. So I feel like I did quite well. But I just find it so odd that you really believe this. That's my honest opinion of that comment. If you really believe that you cannot look at your relationships at 18 to 22 and now say that you was raped, even if you were, then I just feel really, really bad for you. Thank you. Good. I'm glad I came on here because honestly, sometimes I read these comments and I'm like, I don't want to get into anything with you because I mean their name's dissociative as well, which is a bit of a leading name there. But yeah, I just thought it was very odd. I hope that you get the help you need. I don't mean that in a patronizing way, but yeah, I couldn't really express what I wanted to express in words there because writing is not my strong point. You might have noticed that is another thing when you're making content videos. You know, a lot of people write scripts, whereas personally, I just pick up the microphone and I try and think what I have to say. What else have we got here? That's why grooming in relationships. Exactly. Grooming in relationships is just it's when it's happening to you, you don't even know it's happening. You know what I mean? Like there's people that might be commenting here that don't even know they've been groomed. I think it's very likely you can be groomed by other content creators into believing stuff about celebrities quite easily. We've got another comment here. Yes, it's quite easy to see what they're disassociating from. They disclosed more than they wrote. Lots of poorly people on YouTube. I really, really agree. YouTube does seem to attract. I'm sure it's not YouTube, just YouTube, but it definitely does seem to attract people with poor mental health. I will say that. I've had plenty of experience, but I'll tell you what, it definitely once you have understanding of it, it definitely helps you to move forward with confidence. Because I'll be honest with you guys, right? I actually had my own YouTube channel for a long time because it was to do with my profession. And I started this channel as a completely separate kind of entity from my other life. I do have a life. But yeah, I did experience trolling on YouTube back in, I think it was about 2016. In fact, the first video I ever made, I had negative comments. Someone said something about my hair was in front of my face, you know what I mean? It's like, and I used to take those comments very personally. And through my very, very close experience of some really, really damaged people with addictions, people with issues, once I saw how they operated and once I saw how they behave, I just suddenly realized, you do not ever need to worry about someone making a comment about you online. I don't care whether you say something about my looks, about my videos, about how I speak, anything. I've had people years ago comment about how much I blink. And when I'm editing, I can see how much I blink, and I don't know why I do it. It's just something I do. I apologize. I say I say like. These are all these little faults that we have as humans. And if you're going to come onto a video and pick it out and point it out in a comment, then that's your problem. It's not my problem. And honestly, it's been quite liberating knowing how poorly, as you just put it, some of these people are. But like I said, I will still address some of these comments because I think it's worth it. They may not be the only people out there that think like this. And you know what I mean? It's always good to be able to have a conversation and explain to people how they may not be thinking in a critical way. So, there was one other person that made a lot of comments, and to be fair, I did respond to them. They said, "Does it sound believable that Ashley Morgan Smithline was lying about having a repressed memory for 10 years that was magically unlocked by Evan Rachel Wood?" Yeah, sounds pretty believable to me. I mean, believe all women, isn't that the saying? Well, I've already debunked that. You shouldn't believe all women. You know what I mean? It's like, give people a chance, but then do your fact checking. Do they have evidence? I mean, most people have some kind of evidence. They will have told someone, or they will have taken a photo, or there'll be like something they've saved. Especially like, we've had mobiles for like over 10 years now. So social media, DMs, there's normally going to be something you can show. And then you can see their history. How do they speak to other people online? Do you know what I mean? There's so many little things that you can look at a person and make an assessment of whether you want to invest your time and believe in them or not. Anyway, this person, I actually responded to them and I said, when I said, "Does that sound believable?" it was in reference to the lawyer saying she called him. And I mean, I really found that unbelievable. I found it incredible that Marilyn Manson's lawyer sat there and said with a poker face that Ashley Morgan Smithline had called him up and said, "Oh, I didn't mean to say that about Brian. I had a wonderful time in our relationship and please wish him well." Like, it just didn't sound believable. That's why I said it. And also the fact that he goes so hard for Evan Rachel Wood, but yet they literally had no further action towards Ashley. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't seem believable to me. So I genuinely wanted to know if anyone else thought it sounded believable, because I'm sure a lot of people watched that documentary and probably went along with what he was saying. Yeah, so I said, in reference to the lawyer saying she called him and said, "I don't want a dime. I had a wonderful time with Brian. Please pass on my best." And they took no further action. That bit. And then they said, which bit do you find unbelievable? His whole description of what she said, and maybe the fact that she contacted the lawyer in the first place, or is it the taking no further action part? Because I'm not sure what you meant by that, to be honest, and I'm not trying to be thick, but what further action should they have taken? Sue him for defamation, like they did with Evan Rachel Wood, if she no longer wants to be a complainant? That's good news for Brian's lawyers. Not sure what else they're supposed to do, but he's happy about it, question mark. I just feel like they're very vindictive people. So, you know what I mean? It's just very odd that they would just let it slide by. I'll definitely agree it's strange for someone to flip like that. I'm sure it's very unusual. But after hearing her speak on the podcast, the part about her contacting the lawyer doesn't strike me as unbelievable at all. Well, the one thing I will say about that podcast is it was very evident to me that the girl uses substances because she dropped two of them in the conversation, which, why would you do that? Do you know what I mean? I mean, most people, when they go on a podcast, they try and be on their best behavior. Not all, but do you know what I mean? Especially if you're trying to get people back on your side. Like, I think she had gone on that podcast to try and gain back some support. Anyway, I then said, fair enough, I did ask for people to comment, so I appreciate you responding. I said they could have sued her for defamation, given that really was defamation, like Jay-Z is doing to his former false accuser. I'm not going to get into that whole Jay-Z thing right now, but you know what I mean? Like, that is real defamation, what has gone on there. And there's people still believing, by the way, there are people still believing that that woman, the Jane Doe, who said Jay-Z raped her at 13 years old, actually did. It's like, honestly, I'm just, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm on another planet for some people. But yeah, I see videos about it every day. I don't watch them, but I just see it in the title. Um, anyway, the reason why I'm reading you all this is because that person ended the conversation by saying, "Ah, okay, I see where you're coming from. You might have a solid point there. The only reason that occurs to me why they wouldn't sue her is that it would discourage the others from recanting. But that's hardly a definitive thing. Like, maybe you're right, and the best strategy for an innocent Brian would have been to sue her. I don't know." Notice, yeah. That is true. I mean, if someone's really defamed you and you haven't done anything, then wouldn't you want to sue them? Do you know what I mean? Just to prove a point. I'll be honest, your video has brought me back to this thing I haven't looked at in ages. I don't think I've read this bit. But there were a lot of aspects that seemed very fishy, like pictures of bruises showing the pain he inflicted that were then debunked. I forget how exactly, but it seemed a fairly convincing debunking. Then the fact that some of the women were literally claiming to have repressed memories that were later unlocked, and that being debunked as a phenomenon. I think if you're doing drugs and that happens, it's very likely that your memory of it is going to be sketchy. And I think it's fairly likely that they were both doing drugs when that happened. I'm talking about Ashley. I don't know about the others. So I would put it more down to that than what was the word she used? Repressed memories. The pictures of the bruises, I did see something about people are so weird. I mean, imagine spending your time trying to look for pictures of a woman who says she's been whipped and saying, well, I have a picture of her where she already had those marks on her body, and then posting it. I think it was on Reddit or something, which says it all really. But yeah, I do believe that that's how deep some of these people will go. There were pictures floating about where she was in a club or something and she had marks on her body, and they're like, she already had whip marks on her, it wasn't from him, which is just so weird. I think because something like that, it's never going to be definitive, you know what I mean? Like, It's not going to be definitive. It's not going to be like, oh yeah, you're right, he didn't whip her. Like, you just don't know from one picture. Where were we? The whole saga of ERW, that's Evan Rachel Wood, forging documents and, I can't even remember the details, a custody issue, just so many fishy things. Do you think that's all nonsense, cherry picked, exaggerated, etc.? Or what do you make of that stuff? I haven't actually replied to that person. I'm sorry. I normally do 1 or 2 replies max. But I will say this. Okay, I don't need to look at every single thing that's been said and every single detail, because be honest with you, I'm not that interested in Marilyn Manson. What I am interested in is how what's happened with his situation is literally mirrored with other people, with other abusers, with other accused abusers, and how smear campaigns work, and how when a woman speaks out and a woman is strong enough to speak out, and then another bunch of women, like the assistant, you can't say that assistant doesn't sound genuine. Like, what does she have to gain from saying that she worked for him, and the way he treated everyone who came in and out of his workplace the same, controlling, psychological abuse games, making her stand in front of his girlfriend while he threw drinks at her and she was crying, and then saying, right, take a photo of her. Do you know what I mean? Like, things like that. When you're a young girl, you're in the music industry, you don't know what's appropriate and what's not. You're just caught up in the moment. Like, that's always the bottom line of these situations. So I don't know all the exact details of Evan Rachel Wood. I just know that a lot of the people that have spoken out against her, well, at least 2, let's say, one being Andy Signal, Popcorn Planet, who's about as credible as a chocolate teapot. Basically, with him, if he says someone is lying, then I instantly do not believe him, because he backs the liar. He's the one that had Ashley Smith line on his podcast, which I'm not even 100% sure whether that was even her, by the way, because the voice just sounded so different. Like, that definitely sounded like an Australian accent was going on, and I think she's American. But yeah, so for someone like him to try and to be part of the smear campaign against Evan Rachel Wood, that instantly makes me feel, well, I'm going to give her a second listen. Do you know what I mean? That makes me feel like she's more credible. So he has the opposite effect. But I do know that she had a girlfriend and that there are some dodgy things about the girlfriend. Were they trying to coerce people? I really don't know about all that. From what I've seen, there's at least 3 women that have independently come out and told the same story about him abusing them. So that's enough for me. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to know all this other stuff about whether there was a child. What was it she said? A custody issue. I mean, I don't know about that. But from what I have seen enough that I do believe that she was being credible. I mean, her testimony in front of the Congress sounded very credible to me, and the fact that she never said his name for all of that time. And her age, she looks so young in those pictures. She's like a child. You know what I mean? Like, I think you have to take all these things on board. Then someone said, didn't they drop the cases? I said, have you watched the video? You'll get the answer. I think that was someone that hadn't watched the video because I'd literally said in the video that he settled with them. Settlement. Settle means you pay them off. You don't need to pay people off if you're innocent. Like, again, we discussed this in the video I posted on Saturday. And I said that to my friend. She was like, in my logic, that means that they are not innocent. And I said, well, I've had people come in my comments. And the last comment I got, which I clicked on his name. The other thing to do as well is if you read a dodgy comment, look at their profile and see how long they've had their account. So I noticed that this comment came from someone called Gordon Ramsley. So as in Gore, as in Gore. And I feel like that kind of feels a bit Marilyn Manson-ish because he's into gore. And this person has been online since 2006 and they haven't posted a video since for 15 years. So they posted their last video was from 15 years ago, which is okay. And their videos are very weird and they're about heavy metal by the looks of it. So, yeah. I've already got my context before I read their comment, which says the lawyer said nothing about violence in the relationships. He was referring only to their sexual relationships. And I'm like, I just don't find it appropriate that a lawyer is speaking about how we should and shouldn't be having sex. You know what I mean? Like, that was what made me want to make that video. The fact that the lawyer sat there discussing Marilyn Manson's sex life. Like, you're a lawyer, you are not in the bedroom. It just was making me want to, I don't know, it made me very triggered. Someone said nothing makes sense anymore. You know what? I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. I'm not going to do much longer on this because I've gone through all the comments. But I thank you all for joining me. I just want us to, feel like at least we're not the only ones that feel like this, because it can feel overwhelming, the levels of misogyny you see in comments. Like, I don't know if these people really believe what they say or they say it to get a reaction, but it can feel extremely stressful and overwhelming. And so I will keep on repeating the same points because we have to have an alternative viewpoint out there. Anyway, I hope you all have a lovely rest of the evening and I look forward to joining you all soon. Bye.